fundamental needs that we have as humans is the need to grow. A lot of people lead really miserable lives, sometimes all the way up to the end, because they never grew in any meaningful way. I was pretty miserable for a lot of my life because I never prioritized growth. I never sought growth. I never went after it. There's a verse in the Bible that says, "Seek and ye shall find." I did grow from time to time, but I didn't do it with intention. I wasn't going after it. John Maxwell says that experience is not the best teacher. We've all heard that phrase, right? But experience with reflection is. He also says that change is inevitable, but growth is optional. I think there are three really big myths about growth, especially in our culture in the age of social media. And the first one is that people think that it's going to happen all at once. I think that's one of the biggest misconceptions. People think that everything is going to be these massive breakthroughs, when in reality, it's really the small steps. It's a series of those small actions and those small habits that happen over time that leads to the really big breakthroughs. When was the last time you saw an oak tree shoot up 50 feet high overnight? It doesn't happen, right? You have to establish those roots. You have to get nutrients. You have to get water. And your habits and your lifestyle choices, those are the roots. Those are what are going to start creating that foundation for growth. The second myth is that growth is going to be easy. Sometimes people let's be honest, want the benefits without actually putting the work in. Think of it like building a muscle. In order to get stronger, you got to first cause some strain or even some pain. I fell victim to that myth when I started all three of my companies. I figured that, since I had done it before, it was going to be easy, right? I got this figured out. But it took really hard work and a lot of focus and a lot of time and effort. And that really leads to the third myth, because this one especially is really subconscious. And all three of them can be subconscious in ways, but this one, when we find out that the second myth is not true, when we find out that it's not actually going to be as easy as we thought it is, then the third myth comes into play. And that's that if this is going to be painful, if this is going to be hard, maybe it's just not worth it. And this is one of the biggest dream killers. And here's the really scary part. It's rarely conscious thought. Rarely. It's almost always buried in our subconscious. But here's the thing I'm telling you today, that growth is always worth it. It's always worth it. In fact, I would say it's probably one of the most noble and rewarding things in the world, is that constant pursuit of growth. But you have to make a choice. It's not going to choose you. When my son got cancer at 8 years old, my immediate choice was not growth. My first choice was fear. And then it turned to bitterness, and then it turned to victimhood, and I got into this vicious cycle of being stuck in depression and anger and fear. But in the middle of it all, when I chose to actually reflect on my experiences and to learn from them, remember, experience with reflection is the best teacher. The growth at that point was explosive when I learned to find the lessons in the pain. My dad used to tell me that when I was growing up, that you're either growing or you're dying. And that's one of the main constants in the universe, is that everything is either growing or it's dying. We're either moving up or we're sliding back. So I want to ask you, what areas in your life or business or relationships are you resisting growth maybe? What choices have you made that are either pulling you forward or are holding you back? You have unrealistic expectations and you think your growth is going to happen all at once? Maybe you've already poured your heart and your soul into something and you didn't feel that immediate growth, and so you gave up. Maybe you didn't give up all at once. Maybe you didn't tell yourself you were going to give up, but it was just a little bit at a time, a little bit at a time, until you realized that the dream was gone. Maybe you haven't put all the work in yet, and you just want it to be over with. Here's what I can tell you. Your breakthrough is coming. I promise you, you just have to keep going. You have to keep pushing because growth is always worth it. Always. Don't give up. Keep going after what I believe your creator has put in your mind, in your heart. You have that goal, you have that reason, that dream for a reason. It's always darkest before the dawn. That's the cliche they always use, but it's true. I can tell you from my own experience, it's true. Thomas Edison said that many of life's failures are people who did not realize how close they were to success when they gave up. It was right on the other side of that. Growth is hard work, but the true prize of success is really not what you achieve. It's not what you get. It's not the things. It's not the status. It's not the money. It's who you become in the end that really matters. Thanks for watching. Please like, share, and subscribe. And join me for my free workshop on Thursdays at 11 a.m. It's called the Realtor's Edge. There's a link for it in my bio. I would love to see you there. We're going to dive deep into actually turning your pain into your power and learning what true growth means. Love to see you there. Until next time.